Welcome to Elemental Abundance Radio, where science and spirituality meet for your highest good. Elemental Abundance is your source of soul evolution.
And we're back. It is a day full of laughter and friendship and sunshine here at Village Connector Media today. I'm Mia Zachary, and you're listening to Elemental Abundance Radio. This show is a series of conversations where science and spirituality come together to help you live your best life for your highest good. Aristotle believed that our highest good is living well and most importantly, living up to our full potential. So that's why I created Elemental Abundance, to be a resource to help you say yes to your life. If there's anybody that you know, since you're watching us, obviously you want to say yes to your life, and I'm sure you know other people who do also. So do me a favor, share this video with them, and I look forward to seeing your comments and your sharing your good news in the private Facebook group. So go to Facebook, look in the top left-hand corner for the search bar, type in Elemental Abundance, and you'll find both the page and the group, and I look forward to continuing the conversation with you. My guest today is one of my favorite people, Mr. Josh Silverstone from IdeaMindTeams. And today's episode is sponsored by Innovative Editing. I'll talk about them in a little while, but first I want to thank you, Josh, for showing up today.
Oh, thank you, and you're also one of my favorite people, so mutual admiration, I suppose. But thank you for having me.
Well, show's over. We're done then.
Okay, let's get out of here.
So we're going to talk about the concept of mastermind in a couple of minutes. Mm-hmm. But before we get to that, I'd like for everybody to get to know what an amazing guy you are. So how do you want people to think about you?
Yeah.
You know, when they think Josh Silverstone, what is it that you want them to associate with you?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me, my word, if you will, to sum it up, is really value. And that's what I try to do. However I show up, wherever I show up, it's how do I come and add the most value I possibly can. So whether that's helping out, advice, listening, whatever case that may be, showing up and saying I want to be able to add as much value as I possibly can. So, as a reliable resource, a go-to, that's how I hope to be seen in what I try to do every day.
I like that. And I really like that about you. I like your complexity because, you've been in sales, you're a business consultant, you are a poker champion. All the things that you do require, logic and analysis and, a certain way of decision making. We're not talking about this today, but definitely check out acesraise.com, Josh's other business. But you also have such a big heart, and that your heart shows up probably about 30 seconds in the room before you do, which is why I just wanted to invite you to have this conversation today. Because you come from a place of value, how do you try to have an impact on the people around you, through the things that you do?
Yeah. I think with what I do, it is all around decision making, critical thinking, and to kind of boil it down even more, problem solving. So sometimes it's just, like I said, kind of sitting back and listening, but oftentimes I can't help that my mind goes to, okay, here's the problem, here's the challenge, here's the issue, solutions to start. I know how your mind works too, where things just start coming to you and it just comes out. When it comes to ideas for how to fix something or pivot to something or kind of what to do next, what that next step is, kind of that game's way of thinking that's so ingrained in me comes out. So it doesn't have to be a game. It could just be a conversation. It could be in a group session where someone's asking for advice or help. And I didn't really know how all those dots connected, but I was always someone that people came to growing up, just with friends. And it's kind of funny how it's now become my business in some ways, shape, or form. So maybe it's not a funny thing at all. Maybe it's exactly how it's meant to be.
I think it is exactly how it's meant to be, yeah. And you're so good at it. And I think that's why we always get along so well, is I'm really good at, oh, you're here? in this particular, little Polaroid photo, well, I've got this mural that I want you to step into. So I'm really good at painting those pieces, but you're really good at, okay, how are you going to get from the Polaroid to the mural? So I think that's really fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's a great segue into the first quote that I wanted to share with our audience today. It is, well, actually, all of my quotes today, I think, are Dr. Napoleon Hill, author of Think and Grow Rich, among other things, including The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. But this first quote from Napoleon Hill is, "No two minds ever come together without thereby creating a third, invisible, intangible force, which may be likened to a mastermind." Mm-hmm. And I think that happens every time you and I get together. It's like, hey, what are you up to these days? Oh, I'm doing this. Cool. Have you thought about this and this and this and this and this and this?
Yeah. No, it's a natural take something and then let's expand it even more, even if it's just for play or possibility. Not that you necessarily need to take action on every single thing, but the possibilities of what could be is always fun and interesting. And even in a conversation like this, things tend to expand. If you showed up by yourself in this radio room, it'd be a much different experience than if you're sitting with somebody else.
Yeah, everybody would be so bored if it was just me talking to them for 30 minutes.
and not to mention all the other people behind the scenes that help make this possible. It just goes to show you just can't do it all by yourself.
That's true. That's true. So even people who are, quote, self-made, well, we're all self-made. We create our own experiences. Yep. But it's what you were talking about a moment ago about just the other possibilities. Because you're right. Let's say I've got something I'm working on right now, like, a new radio show. I have ideas, I have concepts, I have, things I think I could bring into it, and they're good. But when you bring in another person, and see, this is something that many people might not know. You can have a mastermind of two.
Yeah.
I think most people think a mastermind is like, a large think tank, with multiple people, and it's all very formal and stuff. But as the quote says, anytime two people come together, there is a third force in place, because I might say, hey, this is what I'm working on, and Josh is going to say, oh, this, and this. But then my ideas and your ideas are going to combine to create all new ideas.
That's right. Yeah. It's the two heads coming together to kind of multiply. It's not even just 1 + 1 = 2. It's really more than that. And ideas, they're kind of, where does that actually exist? Which is more probably a spiritual conversation, which I think is appropriate for the show. But right,
yeah,
right. But so a third idea that gets shared between us, or that idea that gets shared between us, like where does it actually exist? It's kind of out here, and maybe that's that kind of third, person or third entity that kind of comes together.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to remember now. Like, was it Inferno? No, that's not the right title. There were 2 volcano movies that came out at the same time.
I think one was Volcano.
Okay, so Volcano and Dante's Peak was
Inferno?
Dante's Peak.
Okay,
that was it.
that's
Dante's Peak. And then another time there were 2, like, there was Armageddon, and then there was also, oh gosh, what's the other one with Taya Leone? Anyway, there were 2 meteor hitting the Earth and crushing everything that came out at the same time.
Oh,
so you have to wonder, are all of these ideas, is everything just out there in the ether waiting for us to go, hey, I think, and then like this magical string, comes down and goes, hey, here's a connection to this, and here's a connection to that.
Yeah. So my personal belief is that it's kind of like gravity. And what I mean by that is, when there's an idea out there and it's, it's held in, you said ether, collective consciousness, it's out there. Well, once it becomes part of your existence or your consciousness, and you share that with somebody else, well, now it's bigger. So it's created a mass. So it's bigger than it was. And that's how gravity works. The bigger the mass, the more gravitational pull it has towards it. So as ideas expand and more people are brought into it, there's naturally going to be more that's coming towards that idea. So, when you say like momentum, like what does that mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a big part of it, is that there really is something going on where it is a compounding type of effect as it tends to grow.
So sort of like an avalanche, where you're starting off with a little snowball, but as each person comes into this mastermind process around an idea, it just grows and grows and grows, and then kind of takes on a life of its own.
Yeah, that's a fair way of putting it, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. So I would love to ask you about your new venture. What the heck is an IdeaMind team?
Sure. Yeah. It's so it's funny. It's actually it came together as part of being part of a mastermind group. So it is a mastermind group, but kind of a mastermind plus, as we like to call it. But it came to being, we were part of a group, actually a group that you're also a part of. You know, we've been part of the same mind team or mastermind group for the past year and a half for me. I think you've been there 3 years.
Closer to 3, yeah.
Yeah. So I joined your already existing little group, and it's been a great experience
Brought
for
that
me.
beautiful masculine energy to a bunch of girls.
Yeah, as I was told, I fit in very well. So for whatever that means, but it ended
You
up
bring
that
balance.
I think
You
so.
bring balance.
Yeah. So Sylvia and I in partnership got together and said, this has been really good for us. We want to help bring this to other people. And kind of what I was doing with my business and what she was doing with her business, we were already kind of doing bits and pieces of it, and it was like a natural, let's do this together. So really practicing what we preach of coming together, sharing ideas, and growing something bigger together than we could on our own. So with Mind Teams, it's, hey, how do we take this idea, this concept, and help other people who are in similar situations to us grow? So yes, we can take Mind Teams into a corporate environment and help them create a group of really getting people together to communicate and talk. I think our biggest passion, especially right now, is helping other entrepreneurs and small business owners get these ideas and resources and information that they wouldn't otherwise get, and help them organize in a way to make their ideas bigger and to get feedback from other people. And I got to say, my professional background is sales and marketing and development and training, leadership training. My partner, Sylvia, as you know, is an expert trainer, 20 years at IBM and I think 5 at AOL. So she has a ton of corporate training development experience, National Speakers Association speaker, Toastmasters, so forth and so on. So in terms of a partnership and everything from that, I mean, it's just an awesome marriage, for lack of better words. So it's really great.
It really is. So I love both of you, and I love what you're creating together. So it's beautiful, the mastermind that the two of you have. And so with the IdeaMind team, how is this different than like a networking group, for example?
Sure. So in a typical networking group, you go, maybe you connect, here's my business card, what do you do? Who are you looking to connect with? And maybe that's as far as it kind of goes. With Mind Teams, it's just a different conversation, a different structure, a different approach, different philosophy. In that, yeah, sure, I can connect you with somebody if that's really what you need or that's really where you're at today. But it's also getting ideas not just on your business, but also on the different things that you have going on in your business. So, for example, you can show up and say, hey, I have a presentation that I'm going to give. And I've done this before. And I was speaking to an executive women's group.
I remember.
And my mastermind group is for other women. And so who perfect to ask, for, hey, how do I cater this message and how do I get this across in a way that's going to relate the best? And I would never get that insight otherwise than having that opportunity. So, that's certainly one situation. Another is, marketing material, or, hey, I'm having this radio show. Here's what I'm thinking. Let me get some feedback on. Here's kind of my ideas, and here's people I'm thinking of interviewing, the structure, and you can get, different people's insight. And not that you have to take every piece of advice, but you're just getting outside perspective from people who are all very skilled and talented in their walks of life to help you make yours bigger and better.
I love the fact that you talked about that IdeaMind teams have a different approach and a different philosophy. My personal experience in being in the Mind team with you is that there's no ego here. Like, I love the fact that, yeah, the 5 of us have our own businesses that we're working on, but unlike my experience with like networking breakfasts and those kind of things, it's not like, well, I'm doing this and I want to try to sell you on what I'm doing. It's really a true giving and receiving environment. So what would you say that the philosophy, the Mind Team philosophy that you and Sylvia developed is? How would you speak that approach?
Yeah, I think, well, it kind of comes down to one main thing, and I think that's relationships. And, mastermind groups, or even, so networking groups, let's start there. They can be 30, 40 people. Mastermind groups, typically, or it could mean a bunch of different things, but it could be a small group of people, or you've maybe seen mastermind groups of hundreds or even thousands of people. That's not what we've put together. Our mind teams, they're really teams. They're 5 to 8 people, no more.
Oh,
So,
wow. Okay.
So we want a small, close-knit group of people that are really coming together, because it's hard to build really tight relationships and trust with a wide net of people. As someone who's tried to do it, it's hard to do. And when you're really coming in mind team sessions to show up with a real business challenge or issue or personal vulnerability, and as I've said before, I'm not the type of person that's really like going to show up and spill all. That's not my typical MO, but I do in these sessions because I know that it's going to be received the right way, and I know I'm going to get a ton of value back from it.
And more importantly, I think there is a trust factor when you've got 5 to 8 people and you're consistently getting together, and when you are personally vulnerable, you allow other people to do the same, which I think is really cool, because at the networking breakfast, it's like, well, hey, I'm doing this event or whatever, but I feel like in a mind team you can go, dude, this really matters to me. I am passionate about this, and I want to tell as many people as possible about that. And that may or may not go over in a group of rotating strangers that could, changes every week.
I would never say that in another group. Yeah. And I think and you're right, it's kind of with that relationship is the trust, and also the kind of protection that what you say here, as we like to say, Vegas styles rules. Right. Exactly.
I have another quote here from Napoleon Hill. No mind is complete by itself, which we've kind of already touched on. It needs contact and association with other minds to grow and expand. This form of cooperative alliance has been the basis of nearly every great fortune. So I wanted to bring this quote to the conversation because I know that, our mind team has been meeting for, 18 months to 3 years. But for the groups that you're starting, I love the fact that you're going into co-working centers that are full of, I'm not crazy about this, but solopreneurs, but people who, normally, they're working remotely. So I know you had a pretty great experience last week, and I'd love to hear about that.
Sure. I'll say this. You probably heard the phrase, it's lonely at the top, as they talk about entrepreneurs. And, as we, kind of get into it, we tend to kind of revert back into our safe space, wherever that is, our office or what have you. And we kind of withdraw a little bit. And so it's nice to be able to come together and connect in that way and still have that connection and still get the support of a group or a team, or kind of feel like coworkers. Other people have said, it feels like I have a team of cheerleaders or marketers or kind of how they put it. And in co-working spaces in particular, it just makes sense because this is where entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, small business owners tend to gather and get together. And, it's a great concept and a great philosophy. Obviously, they're growing all across the country, co-working spaces are. But just because you are in a physical space doesn't necessarily mean that you're working together, right? You could be working alongside each other, or working together alone, or alone together.
Yeah, working together alone. That's a perfect description for what the experience has been like. So how are you and Sylvia introducing the philosophy that we all are successful in association, in contact, that we're not competitors, we're collaborators?
That's right. Yeah, so one of the ways that we're doing it in showing kind of co-working spaces, how this could work for them and how it could be different, and what we did last week, we did our first lunch and learn at a co-working space, actually just on Friday. Went very well. It was a great presentation.
Of course it did. You guys are awesome.
No, we have a good team of us, and the Sharon who showed up and did the little bit of the assessment tool that we take. So, introduced, hey, here's how people communicate and your tendencies and how other people kind of operate, and not that one is right or wrong, but people have different strengths and weaknesses, which rolls right into why a team is very valuable and other people's insights is valuable for different perspective. And just to show you kind of one example of kind of how this worked, even in this little demo lunch and learn session we had. So, in our groups, we'll show up with a challenge or an issue, and everyone gives you feedback, right? That's kind of, and there's a process. And Sylvia has a great structure and process she's put together that's fantastic through her experience. But in this group on Friday, the challenge that she chose was, I need help delegating or managing my time. It was time management. And so all around the room, people are giving great advice to this woman to how to best delegate, to how to block time, and so forth and so on. And it was just, you just saw it, even in this team, this group of people who actually didn't know each other ahead of time.
Oh, okay.
So, just to even show you the power of coming together, putting it out there, and then asking for that advice. So that becomes even more tight-knit, and it becomes probably even more impactful over time. But just in that session, it shows the power of what coming together with other people's ideas does. It's a great Einstein quote. You can't solve problems with the same thinking that created them.
Right. Oh my gosh, that is so cool. I love, the power of coming together. There really is something almost magical that happens if you come with the right mindset. So for anybody who's watching or listening that might be interested, I know that IdeaMindTeams is kind of starting where we are in Maryland, but the idea is to spread that as far and wide as people want it. What would you say is the main philosophy, the key mindset that people need to bring to an IdeaMind team? If they want to join, or if they're looking to join. Yeah, if they're looking to join, because it's like I know from group experiences, you're always going to get different personalities. There's always going to be someone who wants to come in and kind of use it as their own platform, and they're not going to last very long in a truly mastermind environment that is honoring people's vulnerability and supporting their needs.
Yeah. I'll say this. There's some Mind Team sessions that I show up in our personal group where, and actually probably more often than not, where I'm not sharing an issue or a challenge. Sometimes I do, as I said I have. But even just being part of it and helping other people ideate and create and grow, the idea, not just themselves personally, but whatever the concept is, to expand upon it. So I think if you're somebody that knows that, hey, there's times where I need help, and there's times where I know I can help other people, where you recognize, kind of what I was saying before, I have strengths and I have weaknesses, and so do other people, and that other people have value, and that you have value to add. And then if you come together in that type of way, and you just come with sort of show up with, I'm going to do the best I can to help this group grow. If everybody comes with that perspective, and in my experience, our Mind Team, everyone shows up and says, I'm here to help today, or I'm here to get help today, or at first I'm going to get help and then I'm going to give the help, and it's that type of perspective, I think, that is a really good fit and will and I think is just a good thing to help keep relationships in general building. I mean, any relationship is sort of that way. It's like, how do I put as much into this as I possibly can, knowing that it's going to come back to you full circle in the end too.
And I think from my experience, I keep going back to what you said, because I really love this, and maybe you guys should think about adding this to your marketing, but I love what you said.
I'm open for it.
Yeah, growing something bigger together. I really love that, because I think what you receive doesn't even come back at the end. On those days when you're there with or without an issue or a challenge, I think you get it back right away, because how many times have we been in a session and it's like, okay, we're helping Renee or we're helping Susan, and we're giving them advice, and suddenly you're like, well, damn, that was good. I could use that for me too.
And that's a great point. And that happened on Friday. And Sylvia said, I know we were working with this particular individual, but who else got something out of it? And all the hands go up. So
that's cool.
Absolutely. So something about the process, the information that comes out of it, it's pretty valuable. Yeah, pretty valuable.
How has your background as a poker champion, as someone who quite brilliantly teaches better decision making through poker rules, how has that really kind of contributed to the success of IdeaMindTeam?
Yeah. Probably a couple ways. As I mentioned, Sylvia is the expert operations and process person when it comes to here's how a group should run. Expert trainer. I mean, she's just a pro on the stage. Let me just say.
Amazing.
She's so
She's
good.
Amazing.
What she lacks, admittingly, is sales and marketing experience. So that is my professional background, and even before and after poker, that was what I did as a career.
And poker really is sales in itself, isn't it?
It certainly can be. I mean, there's a lot of analogies to be made. The thinking process is also very similar, and I think that aspect of being part of a group and even as a vision for Mind Teams, moving forward, having being able to influence in that way from a strategic direction, in addition to the actual sales and marketing aspect, both of those together makes for just a stronger business and a stronger partnership. So, I'm doing the part that I can to help expand upon it.
Well, I think your part, not taking anything away from Sylvia, who I love and adore, but I think where your strength is because poker involves reading people, reading their body language, watching their facial expressions, their tone of voice. And you'd be so proud of me because poker night at the beginning of the month, I took the first 6 out of 8 pots.
Nice.
So I did remember some of the things you taught me.
Like it.
So I think that what you're doing is really amazing. And I love how the mastermind of Josh Silverstone's life is coming together to create a mastermind that other people can benefit from. One of the masterminds in my life is our sponsor today, which is Innovative Editing. As you can see from the screen, for those of you who are watching rather than just listening, the website is www.innovative.editing.com. And it says, your book, your world. Give it everything it needs to come alive. And the founder of Innovative Editing is Jeanette DeLuey, who is highly skilled. She's got more than 9 years experience as a professional editor, and she's the author of 10 books to date. And I know personally that she's actually working on 2 more at the moment. Jeanette is actually my manuscript editor for the 2 books that I'm working on at the moment. One is a nonfiction personal development book, and the other one is a fictionalized memoir of my spiritual journey, which is kind of how we got to elemental abundance. So if you mention mental dancing when you hire Jeanette to help you with your business book, the history of your mind team and the ideas that you came up with, your spiritual memoir, whatever your passion project is, ask her about the mental dancing discount. You can contact Jeanette through the website, innovativeediting.com. You can also reach her at jdelouie, DILOUIE, at innovativeediting.com, or you can just give her a call at 717-312-4436. Well, Josh, God knows I could talk to you forever, which is why we're running over time at the moment, but I want to come back to you and ask you, with regard to the mastermind principle, what would you say to people who've never experienced it before? What advice would you want to give them to give an IdeaMind Team a try?
Yeah. If you want to do anything big or great, you're not going to be able to do it all by yourself. I think is one of the big lessons that I've kind of learned along my journey. There's only so much you can do all on your own. And once you let people in and put yourself in that situation where you're saying, you know what I know, but I know I don't know everything I need to know, and you get yourself into that type of environment or that type of session or whatever you want to call it, things tend to build and expand. And whether it's law of attraction or whatever you like to call it, when minds come together, great things happen. So and I think one of the biggest things is just kind of be open to new things and new ideas, and certainly opening up and allowing other people in to share their input, and people who want the best for you, and that's especially in mind teams, people who want the best for you, who aren't there to tear you down, but to help build you up and to make things bigger and better. Like I said, great things can happen, and I've seen it firsthand in my life and other people around me. So I guess I'd leave it at that.
Thank you so much for coming and spending time with me.
Thank you.
If you would love to work with Josh to find out more about, how he can help you grow something bigger together, go to their website, which is www.IdeaMindTeam.com. Yeah, the professional writer cannot read these words right now.
Well, reading and writing are two different
They're
things.
two different things.
Yeah.
You can also contact Josh at 301-801-5501. He's number one in my book, so email him, Josh at IdeaMindTeam.com, and also ask him about Aces Raise and your next poker charity event. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one more quote from Dr. Napoleon Hill. And I think it just completely sums up everything that you and Sylvia are creating. Dr. Hill says, if you do not control your thoughts, you cannot control your needs. I'm going to read that one more time. If you cannot control your thoughts, you cannot control your needs. And so here's the thing. When you're sitting home alone, trying to get your business off the ground, your thoughts are spinning out of control, and you think that this is not possible because there are too many things you need. But by employing this mastermind principle, you're going to find that you have what you need. You just have to ask for it. So I'm going to ask you to find us on social media by just putting in @mentaldancing. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, all over the place. You can also visit the website, which is elementalabundance.com or mentaldancing.com. You can listen to the original podcast. You can watch the videos. You can buy the card decks. And more importantly, you can find Josh and all of the other guests in the guide directory. So, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Elemental Abundance. This is where spirituality and science come together for your highest good. So until next time, I wish you love. I wish you great success. And more than anything else, I wish you joy.